1989 North Carolina Inaugural Ceremonies.
And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina?
4 years ago, he made history as only the second Republican governor elected this century.
Our future calls us together in that spirit of unity.
Now, James Grub Martin will stand alone as the first GOP governor to be reelected in the last 100 years. Live from the state capitol in Raleigh, the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters proudly presents Plus Ultra, More Beyond, North Carolina's Future. Now, your host for the 1989 Inaugural Ceremonies, Larry Stogner.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. We are coming to you live and direct from downtown Raleigh in front of the Archives and History State Library building. The weatherman and Mother Nature conspired to play a trick on us today. Skies were supposed to be blue, the temperature in the mid-60s. What we have is cold, overcast weather here. The temperature we last checked is 48 degrees in downtown Raleigh. I'm going to tell you now what to expect out of this telecast today. There will be some introductory ceremonies, including the national anthem. Then the 8 elected Council of State members will take their oaths of office from members of the state Supreme Court. The Lieutenant Governor, Jim Gardner, and the Governor, Jim Martin, will be sworn in. There will be an exciting display of military honors, a 19-gun salute, and a flyover of aircraft. And then Governor Martin will make his inaugural address when we can hear his goals for North Carolina for the next 4 years. Now, the inaugural party has been forming at the Executive Mansion and is now proceeding to the podium. Let's go quickly to Miriam Thomas, who has been at the gate of the Executive Mansion for more on that. Miriam?
Larry, I have indeed a good vantage point. You can see over my right shoulder the Executive Mansion, which in this 100th year is the place that the official inaugural ceremonies have actually begun. They did just moments ago with the official inaugural party, making the processional about a block from the Executive Mansion to the podium, where you will see everybody standing now. What you are about to see on videotape is Governor Martin's party making the walk of a block down from the Executive Mansion over to the podium. A lot of pomp and ceremony and circumstance attached to all this. The crowd very jovial this morning as the 440th Army Band played the processional. Governor and Mrs. Martin and their family, the governor's mother, I believe, the Martin's children and their granddaughter, Catherine, is also here this morning. The invocation is now underway on the podium, where we will join Jim Bradley, who has that vantage point, so that you may see it.
Miriam, sometimes these things even go a little bit ahead of schedule. That's unusual for a ceremony this large, but that's what's happening here. Liston Ramsey, a Democrat, ironically, has already opened this 1989 inaugural ceremony. The invocation, as you said, is going on right now. A minute ago, the governor and the Council of State and the Supreme Court justices all came up. They're seated on the front row here, and behind them, a long list of big-name Republicans that range from Jesse Helms to the governor's own brother, Joe Martin. This is an exciting time for all these Republicans. The crowd is large. The band a moment ago was striking up, playing enthusiastic music. And as they've done that, this is such a big occasion for Republicans here that it's really difficult to describe everything that's been going on. The greetings that went on were brief. This is a ceremony that has been scripted down to the smallest detail and has to go off on schedule. And so, as the invocation wraps up here, let's go back to Larry.
All right, thank you very much for that, Jim. As you can hear, the invocation is going on here on Jones Street in Raleigh in preparation for the inaugural ceremonies. There is an area immediately in front of the podium for distinguished guest. Reporter Dave Bolick is there. Let's go to him for that. David?
Larry, 4 years ago on a very freezing morning, Governor Jim Martin, when his first inaugural address, called for one united state. And in his inaugural address today, he will say that we have it. I'm standing in a crowd of legislators, legislative guests, and other distinguished people who, along with the governor, will make what happens in the state happen or not happen for the next 4 years. When Mr. Martin gives his inaugural address a few minutes from now, it will be an upbeat version of his campaign speech. He will call for better schools, better roads, better jobs, and a better environment. The official motto, if you will, for this event is Plus Ultra. He chose that because it's a Latin motto that he will say virtually says, we're number one. and he will call for 1990 to be a year of celebration for North Carolina and its heritage. Larry, we'll be here throughout the proceedings. Back to you.
All right, David, thank you very much for that. We should explain a little bit about this theme, Plus Ultra, and how it all came about. Governor Martin gave the title Plus Ultra, which is Latin for the words more beyond. There's a little history lesson behind all of it. It seems that back in the 15th century, Spanish coins had the motto Ne Plus Ultra, which means no more beyond, because Spain thought the world ended at the horizon. Well, a man by the name of Christopher Columbus came along and proved that the world indeed was round, and the motto was changed to Plus Ultra, or more beyond. Jim Martin feels the same way about North Carolina and thinks we have much more beyond. He, of course, will be talking about this later on in his address. The invocation has just concluded. Who you're hearing right now is House Speaker Liston Ramsey, who will be presiding over the ceremonies for the next few moments. Let's go to the podium.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
David and Trent Moody, the Moody brothers of Charlotte, North Carolina. They performed at a fundraiser last fall at the Motor Speedway in Charlotte. The governor heard them, like their version of the national anthem, and asked that they perform at his inauguration. They sang that, of course, a cappella. Now, during the swearing in of the Council of State members, which will be coming up shortly, all the oaths will be the same, except for the names, of course. We have talked to each member about what he plans to do during the next 4 years, and you will be hearing some of those statements as the Council of State members are sworn in. Let's go to the podium now, and House Speaker Liston Ramsey.
Patrick Dorsey.
Governor Martin, fellow North Carolinians, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As chairman of the Inaugural Committee, it is a privilege to welcome you to the 27th public inaugural ceremony and the inauguration of the 65th governor of our great state. Today's ceremony is truly a historic event. Many of you will be able to tell your children and your grandchildren that you attended the first inaugural to induct a Republican governor of North Carolina into office for a second 4-year term. And for the first time in the 20th century, we inaugurate both a Republican governor and a lieutenant governor. We appreciate your participation in this historic event. And I wish to take this opportunity to thank those who have served on the inaugural committee and many others for their dedication and their support in making today's ceremony possible. This historic inauguration ushers us into the last 11 years of the 20th century, working together with God's help. North Carolina will meet and overcome all challenges. God bless North Carolina. Now, at this time, I am pleased to recognize Mr. Andrew Card, Deputy Chief of Staff for the President of the United States, with a special message. Mr. Card.
Reverend clergy, honored guests, Governor Martin, it's a real pleasure for me to be here. I stood in the same place 4 years ago, and I remember that day being a little bit colder than today. I also remember having my Boston accent, and I haven't lost it, so I will still say Governor Martin. This is a special treat for the people of North Carolina, but it's an especially special treat for the Republicans around this great country, because we are seeing for the first time a Republican governor serve 2 consecutive terms. In fact, we're seeing for the first time a Republican governor serving 2 terms in the great state of North Carolina. I bring the greetings of the President of the United States and the White House staff, but more importantly, I bring the greetings of Governor Martin's friends in Washington. And I would like to read one letter that has special significance. January 5th, 1989, the Honorable James Martin, Governor, State Capital, Raleigh, North Carolina. Dear Jim, just a quick note of congratulations on being sworn into your 2nd term as the Governor of the state of North Carolina. What you have accomplished so far in the Tar Heel State has been impressive. Just as important, though, the voters have taken note of your many accomplishments, and they have again placed their confidence in your leadership. I look forward to your continued work together in tackling the important issues facing our nation. Please know that your support, as well as your candid feedback, will continue to be appreciated at this end. Again, congratulations on your 2nd inauguration as governor. Warm personal regards. Sincerely, George Bush. Thank you very much.
The words you're hearing from Andrew
Martin.
Card, who is Deputy Chief of Staff for the George Bush transition team. The letter he is reading has been both from President Reagan and President-elect George Bush. You can see right now many of the dignitaries here. It is a cold day, and a lot of people are really, really bundled up for this occasion. Those that did show up, I think the number of people in attendance is going to be far short of what was expected, and mainly that's because of the weather. We're going back to the podium now where they'll begin the Council of State oath-taking.
E. Long, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Willis P. Witchard.
Raise your right hand. Do you, James Eugene Long,
solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States.
In the last 4 years, we've built one of the better insurance departments in the country. We show that with some of the savings in auto insurance rates alone. We have whacked $365 million out of the requests from the industry in the last 4 years. That works out $250,000 a day. I think we can do better than that. We now have the actuaries on the staff. We have the technical expertise, the computerization. We plan to do better.
Defend and support the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability. And do you swear that you will well and truly discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner of Insurance according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
So help me God, I do.
The Commissioner of Labor, the Honorable John C. Brooks, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Willis P. Witchard.
Do you, John Charles Brooks, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, and do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina?
One of the most important things is for North Carolina to finally recognize the importance of vocational education and get a Center for Applied Technology in place under whatever auspices, preferably the university system. But we need to give new emphasis to training our workforce for the kinds of technical jobs that are coming into the mainstream of industry in North Carolina today.
You will well and truly discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner of Labor according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God.
I do, so help me God. Thank you.
The Commissioner of Agriculture, the Honorable James A. Jim Graham, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice John Webb.
Do you, James Allen Jim Grahams, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful?
The most important thing for me as Commissioner of Agriculture is to try to keep the people of North Carolina informed of what the Department of Agriculture does. Not just agriculture, the industry of agriculture, but marketing, animal health, that affect all the people of the state, urban, suburban alike.
The Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, and do swear that you will well and truly discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner of Agriculture according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God.
I will and I shall do, so help me God.
The Attorney General, the Honorable Lacey H. Thornburg, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice John Webb.
Do you, Lacey Herman Thornburg solemnly swear that you...
I think our most important goal is to continue working with law enforcement to convince the General Assembly that we need additional agents and funding support for our war on drugs, and additional assistance for help in the consumer protection area. And also we're looking into a 4-year period in which environmental matters are going to become more important, and that means we're going to have additional funding there.
Attorney General, according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God.
I do, so help me God.
The Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Honorable Bobby Ray Etheridge, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Henry E. Fry.
Do you, Bobby Ray Etheridge, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, and do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities?
I think the most important thing is we can concentrate on the dropout program, because that's not only a state but a national problem. The problem of student achievement and providing the support system for our young people in this state, because that's terribly important, and working with other agencies to do that.
And do swear that you will well and truly discharge the duties of the office of State Superintendent of Public Instruction according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God.
On behalf of the 1.1 million school children in North Carolina, I do, so help me God.
The State Treasurer, the Honorable Harlan Edward Boyles, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Henry E. Fry.
Do you, Harlan Boyles, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, and do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful?
I think the overriding emphasis ought to be, and probably will be, a self-evaluation of what we're now doing to make sure that we're getting proper value for the dollars we spend, and understand that new taxes, if there are to be new taxes, that we do that only as a last resort, that management be given first priority over what we're now doing.
And do swear that according to the best of your abilities and judgment, you will execute impartially the office of State Treasurer in all things according to law, and account for the public taxes, and that you will not directly or indirectly apply the public money to any other use than by law directed, so help you God.
With God's help, I do. Thank you.
The State Auditor, the Honorable Edward Renfro, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Harry C. Martin.
Do you, Edward Renfro, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, and do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
I believe there's between $200 and $300 million a year in taxpayers' funds that can be saved if the state auditor's office can get the cooperation of the governor's office and the General Assembly and adequate funding to identify those savings. I believe that's possible, and that's my goal for the next 4 years.
Not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, and do you swear that you will well and truly execute the trust reposed in you as auditor without favor or partiality, and will discharge the duties of your office according to law, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
With God's help, I will.
Congratulations. Good, a memento you might want to keep.
The Secretary of State, the Honorable Rufus L. Edmonston, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice Burley B. Mitchell, Jr.
Do you, Rufus Lige Edmonston, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful
Well, I
and bear true
want to carry on the marvelous work of Thad Ewer. Nobody can do that, but I'll try. But secondly, I want to keep fraud out of the marketplace and protect citizens as I did when I was Attorney General. I get a real kick out of that. I don't like people who try to cheat one another, and I'm going to be a fierce protector of the public against fraud for the next 4 years.
Of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability. And do you swear that you will, in all respects, faithfully and honestly execute the office of Secretary of State of the state of North Carolina during your continuance in office according to law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
Rufus Edmondson, of course, has done this before. He was former Attorney General of the state. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Lieutenant Governor Bob Jordan, who originally didn't plan to be part of this ceremony, but was told that constitutionally he had one last task to perform. This is going to be it, and it is going to be short.
The Lieutenant Governor-elect, the Honorable James C. Gardner, to whom the oath of office will be administered by Associate Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, Louis B. Meyer.
Big cheer going up for Jim Gardner. As you can hear, a 55-year-old Rocky Mount businessman. People are standing up. No stranger to North Carolina politics. A congressman in the late 60s.
Solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution
Ran
of the
twice
United
for
States.
governor.
And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support and maintain and defend the Constitution and laws of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability? And do you swear that you will well and truly discharge the duties of the office of Lieutenant Governor according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
I do, so help me God.
And with that, Jim Gardner becomes the first Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina of this century. And after a brief speech, he will introduce Governor Martin.
Thank you very much. Thank you. These ceremonies today are an observation of an honorable tradition of the past. But each of us here today has his mind clearly focused on the future. As Joseph Conrad once wrote, the man of mind is capable of anything because everything is in it, all the past as well as all the future. In a few days, our General Assembly will convene to consider our future. It is a splendid distinction for me to be part of this body as well as being part of Governor Martin's administration. And as we meet, we must be aware that our responsibilities are not momentary, for what we will do here will touch many generations of the future. I have a vision which shows us setting aside partisan interests for the public good. I see us working as a team for a proud public. I see us raising the aspirations of our children, raising the hopes of our elderly, and raising the ambitions of our youth. I see us ridding our future from the plague of illicit drugs in North Carolina. I see our children once again embracing a devotion to the principles of learning. I see many great things in this vision of the future, but I also see the reminder that things do not happen in this world, they are brought about. We must clearly draw our inspiration from the people who have trusted us. Working together in behalf of the citizens, we can and we will bring about this vision. Charles Dudley Warren, an author with a rather keen insight into the nature of politics, warned us that public opinion is stronger than the legislature. I know what the public expects of me. It expects me to fulfill the commitments that I made in the campaign of 1988, and God willing, I will do so. I also know what Governor Martin expects of me.
There you see
He expects me to be a working
North Carolina.
party.
Governor
God
James
willing,
Hunt
I will be no
on the
less.
left, Governor James
Winds
Holshouser
of
on the right.
change are blowing across North
Holshouser was the
Carolina
governor of
today.
North Carolina just before
It is a
Jim Hunt.
change called for
It was
by
4
our
years
people.
ago at this same site
And only the deaf will
that
not
Governor
heed their
James
voice.
Hunt passed the
Only those who
torch
are
to Governor
faint of
James
heart,
Martin, the man who is being inaugurated for his second time here
join
today.
the high venture which lies ahead. For we will strike out on a bold new trail with new ideas and new methods. Yes, a new vision for our state. Those inspiring words, I am sorry to say, are not mine. They were spoken on January the 5th, 1973, in the inaugural address of the first Republican governor elected in this state in the 20th century, James E. Holshouser. The words still ring true and the challenge still remains. It is no coincidence that Governor Holshouser will be working with me in the coming months to help realize our vision. Together with Governor Martin, members of the General Assembly and the Council of State, we will keep the winds of change blowing across North Carolina. I am proud to recognize the Honorable James G. Martin, our distinguished governor, and to express to him for all North Carolina our appreciation for his dedicated leadership.
Big hand now for Governor James Martin. Crowd of about 20,000 standing. Governor Martin makes his way to the podium. Of course, we're much more familiar with him than we were 4 years ago. Son of a Presbyterian minister born in Savannah, Georgia. His oath will be administered by James Exum, Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court.
Do you, James Scrub Martin, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution and laws of the United States? And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability? And do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully perform the duties pertaining to the office of Governor of North Carolina, to which you have been elected, so help you God?
I do, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice.
The 319th Field Artillery of the 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg performs a 19-gun salute that is traditional for the governor. It involves 6 105mm howitzers, each firing 3 times in 3-second intervals. Always a moving ceremony, a 19-gun salute accorded to the governor, James Grubbs Martin.
Mr. Chief Justice, Lieutenant Governor Gardner, Mr. Speaker, members of our courts, members of our General Assembly and our delegation to the United States Congress, and members of this administration and administrations past, family and friends, fellow North Carolinians. Today, as we begin these next 4 years, let us especially salute the men and women who make state government happen, our tens of thousands of fine employees who daily do their jobs with pride. They teach our children, build our roads, care for our sick, enforce our laws, and generally make our lives better through good government here in North Carolina. One of their great number is retiring today after 60 years as a state employee, 52 years as our Secretary of State, the very Honorable Thad Ure, and I hope you would please join with me in tribute to our friend, the only Secretary of State most of us have ever known. Let us also celebrate this bountiful land which Charles Kuralt has called home far beyond all praise. For North Carolina is truly our state of grace, our state of the arts, and our state of the hearts, the Old North State. 4 years ago on this occasion, I received a poem written for me by William H. Weatherly, Jr. of Brown Summit, and I want to share it with you. She lies unspoiled, snuggled amid breathless, blue-ridged mountains and distinctly romantic shore. She is the consummate gem of America's Southland. Each season only alters her magnificence. There is no travesty in her character. Refresh yourself with her sparkling atmosphere, her placid countryside, and lenient people. State your pleasure, and she will answer in fashion. Have will for commerce, and she'll comply, taking her place among the giants. For within her peacefulness there is prosperity. She will see that the student studies in excellence, that the athlete performs at peak in any arena, and that the writer and the artist are awe-inspired. She beckons you come to her, and she'll make you her lover for the time you have to share.
She asks only that you pass on the affection, the energy, and the spirit that you gather from her so that she in turn might share her gift again and again. And she will remain, as always, the state of North Carolina. North Carolina is our home. Its spirit lifts and inspires us. And so I propose to you today a special year-long celebration of this spirit of North Carolina, a promotion which we will organize of its heritage and its grandeur and its people that will involve every community in appropriate ceremonies and events. Let there be competitions, performances, parties, tributes, and displays. 3 years ago, there was the Tennessee homecoming. This year, there's the Alabama reunion. In 1990, we will showcase the spirit of North Carolina. Their celebrations have been excellent, and ours must be better. After all, we have North Carolina. 4 years ago, we shared here a vision of North Carolina as one united state. Today, we can share the satisfaction of having attained so many of our goals, building better schools, better roads, better jobs, and a better quality of life for our people. Yet we know there's so much more to be done to fulfill our state's potential. We must have even better schools with more emphasis on results and the achievement of our students. We have focused on the inputs of funding levels, required offerings, staff ratios, and regulations. While those will continue to deserve our attention, we now see that the outcomes are really more important. The ultimate evaluation of our schools depends not on input formulas, but on students' achievement scores and subject mastery and attendance and dropout rates. These last 5 years have seen unprecedented improvement in funding for North Carolina's public schools. I'm proud that every budget that I've submitted and every budget enacted by the General Assembly has increased spending for schools even as a percentage of a growing general fund. That had never happened before. North Carolina's greatest contribution to educational reform is our pioneering demonstration that incentive pay for teachers can be applied fairly and that it works. Despite early misgivings, the vast majority of our teachers taking part in the Career Ladder Pilot Program have graded it a success. More time is being spent on subject matter, more time on task. There's better discipline and attention. Students and teachers are better prepared for class, and student test scores are remarkably better. It is time now to offer this program statewide so that all teachers can have the opportunity for classroom promotions, what I like to call better pay for better teachers. This Career Ladder Incentive Pay Program will do more to improve the quality of public education than any other reform being considered in America because it will strengthen the teaching profession. In his inaugural address in 1909, Governor William Kitchen put it this way: "The blessings of education no good man denies. Its necessity no wise man doubts, and its opportunities no just citizen would withhold from the public." John Motley Moorhead set this aim in 1841. It is in our common schools, in which every child can receive the rudiments of an education, that our efforts should be mainly directed. Jim Holzhauser declared in 1973 that quality education will be a polar star which will guide us toward a future of promise. Carr Scott put it most succinctly, if earthily: "The most valuable crop we raise is our children." And I say to you that there is no responsibility more important than strengthening our financial support for public education, except to assure that we get better results and that our children get more out of what we put in. The next most important investment in the future of our state is transportation. Railroads, airports, and seaports are getting more attention, deservedly, as important parts of our state's infrastructure. Yet when it comes to capital expenses, roads are our biggest responsibility. So it was that in 1986 we worked together to patch a flat tire in our road building fund. Then I concluded in 1987 that it's vital to the economic well-being of our state and of every part of North Carolina that we build a strategic corridor system of high-quality, four-lane roads that would reach into every part of our state. This would bring a continuous, uninterrupted four-lane network within 10 miles of over 90% of our people. The Highway Study Commission is reaching bipartisan consensus on the magnitude of our need, the extent to which we can meet it over the next 10 to 12 years, and the fairest and surest way for users to pay for it. And I call upon you to join me in encouraging and supporting their recommendations when they're presented. When Carscott advocated paved roads in 1949 as the repeal of the mud tax, he was echoing Governor Robert B. Glenn's observation that next to illiteracy, mud levies the highest tax on a state. Just as farm-to-market roads were vital ties linking us together when we were stuck in the mud in those days, surely the strategic corridor system is needed today when we're stuck in traffic jams and economic stagnation. And I say to you that nothing will do more to tie us together as one united state than to build this intrastate network of four-lane highways that go somewhere. It will help to get workers to their jobs in our congested cities, and while helping us to get jobs to the workers in rural areas. Then we will be able to say, anywhere in North Carolina, you can get there from here. If better schools and better roads are our most important public investments, then the most valuable public return on these investments will be better jobs. Every governor since Luther Hodges has worked hard at industrial recruitment and kept us ahead of the competition. What this administration has done is to add programs to help existing businesses and to identify new targets of opportunity, such as pharmaceuticals, automotive components, non-manufacturing firms, and many others. We've formed successful partnerships with local business and government leaders so that small towns and rural communities could share in more of the prosperity, and it has worked. With investment in new and expanded manufacturing and non-manufacturing facilities averaging $5 billion a year, creating a net gain of 100,000 jobs a year, North Carolina has clearly outstripped the nation. While we've all shared in the concern over plant closings, this administration has been careful not to overreact or follow the call of some to seek retribution, for that would have injured North Carolina's overall business reputation. A recent study by the UNC Center for Competitiveness and Economic Growth found that during the last 4 years, for every one job lost in the state due to plant closings, layoffs, or company moves to another state, 2 new jobs were created by startups, expansions, and relocations to North Carolina. And what about the quality of those jobs? Another study soon to be released by the same researchers has found a 4-year decline in our rate of formation of low-paying jobs, under $11,200 a year, while jobs paying more than $45,000 have grown by 18% in North Carolina in the last 4 years, reversing a decline of the previous 4 years. And I say to you, that's far better than the national average or than the rest of the Southeast, which improved by only 2% growth in high-paying jobs. There is much more to be done if we're to reach our reasonable and determined goal of raising our per capita income to the national average, and our efforts must be compatible with the programs and the philosophy which have produced our positive business climate. Along with better schools and better roads and better jobs, surely we must get more serious about better environmental protection. That means we must do what it takes to identify the more serious environmental problems and to apply our considerable resources to deal with the real wolves rather than chasing after rabbits. How can we tell the difference? The North Carolina Center for Public Policy Research has just recommended establishing an environmental index, both to assess the state of the environment of the state and to provide a quantitative basis for tracking our progress in dealing with it. Mecklenburg County has already launched such a county-wide program. I am impressed with this concept and propose to you to establish a statewide effort to evaluate the quality of our air, water, and land resources, and I will appoint a blue ribbon panel of citizens from a cross-section of backgrounds from all across the state. They will hold a series of hearings and submit recommendations for standards and for action and help us set measurable targets for improvement so that we can know whether we're doing something useful. I'm pleased that the legislature's Environmental Study Commission has just agreed to recommend enactment of my plan with few changes to consolidate environmental regulatory agencies under one department. This step will mean that we can now move forward with a major reorganization long sought by environmental and business leaders alike, as well as efficiency advocates. In the brief time available today to address some of our significant achievements and the remaining goals ahead of this new administration, many important topics could not be covered. There is, however, one critical problem which is so pervasive and which poses so great a threat to our society that it must be taken up before closing. Drug abuse is a costly disease in its toll on wasted education, degraded health, and jumbled productivity, as well as in the criminal activity undertaken to pay for it. We're still just beginning to come to grips with a problem so serious that it has the potential to undermine all our goals. To raise this concern to a far higher commitment, I will establish a special team of cabinet rank officials to develop the best strategy for North Carolina's war on drug abuse. This drug cabinet will be chaired by Lieutenant Governor Gardner and will include the Attorney General, the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Secretaries of the Departments of Commerce, Corrections, Crime Control and Public Safety, Human Resources, and Transportation. And I will ask them to recommend more aggressive and effective strategies for drug countermeasures by July 1990, with interim reports for steps that can be implemented more quickly. Yes, there have been many satisfying accomplishments over the past 4 years. There's much more to be done. With great confidence that there is a brighter future ahead for North Carolina and our people, I've chosen an antique Latin motto for the theme of this address. Back during the 15th century reign of Ferdinand and Isabella, Spanish coins were minted with the inscription, "Ne plus ultra." This meant no more beyond, and signified the belief that there was nothing more beyond the ocean west of Gibraltar. Ne plus ultra also carried another meaning, signifying that no other power was beyond that of Spain. It was their equivalent way of saying we're number one, for so it seemed. All this, of course, was changed by the voyages and discoveries of Christopher Columbus. Thereafter, beginning with the 16th century Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, Spanish coins were minted to reflect the new order. As shown on this 18th century coin dated 1751, an 8 real silver piece, the negative was dropped so that they would read plus ultra, which translates to mean more beyond. There was more beyond, more lands to explore and exploit, more people to civilize. There had come a wider and more challenging future. Plus ultra. Let this be the watchword for this inauguration day, for there are new challenges for us to face, along with unfinished business from the past. There is indeed a brighter future for North Carolina. Today, let us rededicate ourselves to fulfill that destiny for our state. Let us accept the responsibility to work together for better schools and better roads and better jobs and better environmental protection and a better quality of life for all our people, plus ultra, for there is so much more beyond.
You have just heard the words of Governor James B. Martin, Governor James G. Martin, as he concludes his speech. Now what we're having is a military flyover. Helicopters from the Army National Guard. Very loud here for a few seconds over the inauguration site as the Army National Guard helicopters flew overhead. Actually, this was supposed to have taken place earlier, immediately after the 19-gun salute, but there was some holdup or mix-up. The skies are very overcast here, and there was some question at first over whether they were going to be able to do it at all.
Please remain standing in place until the first two rows of the inaugural platform have been cleared. Then move promptly to Wilmington and Salisbury Street for the inaugural parade. The benediction will be delivered by Bishop John H. Miller Sr., African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, Raleigh, North Carolina.
I commend all these servants of the great state of North Carolina unto him who is able to keep them from falling and to present them faultless before his Father's throne with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, to whom be honor, glory, majesty, dominion, and power, now and evermore. Amen.
We can hear the bells tolling here at downtown Raleigh as the music cranks up. Immediately after this ceremony, the whole inaugural party and many of those thousands of spectators who showed up here today will move to the inaugural parade site. The viewing stand is on the east side of the Capitol building, a couple of blocks from here. Well, the job of transporting all these elected officials, their families and dignitaries through the crowd has been planned out pretty much like a military invasion, and members of the National Guard have it all mapped out. Because Governor Jim Martin was basically passing the torch on to himself, not from another governor, this has been a much leaner inaugural ceremony, but it has been a very nice ceremony. If everyone could stand the weather that we had today, it has been very cold, certainly unexpected. It was not 68 degrees, as folks have said. It was more like 50 degrees for the most part. We thank you so much for being with us today. That concludes our live coverage of the 1989 North Carolina inaugural ceremonies, Jim Martin's second term as governor. We'd like to thank all the people responsible for this production. I'm Larry Stogner. Goodbye from Raleigh.
This program has been a presentation of the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and this member station.